Last summer's fires in the Brazilian Amazon rainforest caused concern around the world and a call to action. People in the U.S. and Europe urged Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro to protect the world's largest rainforest as it burns at an alarming rate. But Bolsonaro fired back at his critics, claiming they are spreading fake news to undermine Brazil's economic progress. CBSN Original's new series Reverb went down to the Amazon for a first-hand look at what's driving the deforestation. What they discovered was surprising financial connections leading back to the U.S. Here's a preview.
The presence of foreign companies and increased development inside the Amazon has drawn the attention of environmental watchdogs.
We wanted to look at the supply chains and the financial flows between the outside world and the Brazilian Amazon. And what we found was that many of the financial actors that are investing in the companies involved in deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon, as well as the purchasers of the products, are based in the US and in Europe.
The loudest voices when we were hearing the global uproar over the Amazon burning was from Americans and Europeans. And here you've kind of laid out the complicity that these companies, and by extension us, our money, helps drive this.
Absolutely. I think we're shielded from what our money is doing abroad.
All right, let's bring in CBSN Originals correspondent and executive producer Adam Yamaguchi. Adam, that seems very interesting. I can't wait to watch this. I want to shift to President Bolsonaro. How is he reacting to criticisms against him?
Right. He has, he's been very defiant. I mean, as I mentioned in the piece, the loudest chorus of voices critical of Brazil and its treatment of the Amazon came from the U.S. and from Europe. Of course, it came from abroad, but primarily here. And what's interesting is that the tone that's been struck in Brazil is, look, we are developing the Amazon because we have an economy to think about. We have growth projections, and we need to provide jobs and a stable economy and a growing economy for the people not only throughout Brazil but also in the Amazon. And this is one necessary step to achieving that. So, it is given him, for those who support him, it's really only kind of bolstered his standing in their eyes.
Now, while you were in the Amazon, is that what you saw? Did you see a lot of industrialization happening?
We were on a stretch of the Brazilian Amazon highway called BR-163. It's a controversial highway that stretches from one port city and goes straight deep inside to the heart of the Amazon. The traffic jams that we encountered along the way were mind-blowing. I mean, I'm from LA, I'm used to traffic, and I never imagined in my wildest dreams that I would be stuck in traffic. We're talking kilometers and kilometers of 18-wheelers just nose to tail. And it shows just how much business there is to be conducted, how much goods there are, soy, beef, to be transported out of the Amazon to port cities and then beyond.
Yeah, it's just an incredibly valuable area, resource-wise. So, speaking of those traffic jams, what kinds of companies were they? Were they foreign companies, domestic?
Right. Well, on its face, it's kind of hard to tell. The entire supply chain is very murky by nature. And it in some ways shields, if you ask why are Americans so unaware that there is American complicity or European complicity in all this? Well, you don't see it. These trucks are transporting any number of goods. Where they come from exactly, whether they're coming from illegally deforested patches of land or legal patches of land, it's unclear. It all gets sort of washed and put on into the supply chain and then funneled, across the world. But we are talking about Brazilian soy and beef. But again, it's really hard to say where that's going, who that's going to, and that's part of the design of all this.
Yeah, it's certainly murky and difficult to trace down exactly what commodities are coming from where, as you mentioned. Obviously, at the center of this, there's a lot of public controversy on both sides. So what's the difference between foreigners' perspective on this situation and then the Brazilian locals? You touched on this a little bit, but go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, again, I think the foreigners' perspective has been the Amazon is a treasure that really the entire world has a stake in. And there's a lot of truth to that. The Amazon is incredibly important to the ecology, not only of Brazil and South America, but the world. So many around the world are right to feel like they have a stake in all of this. But again, for Brazil, this is simply about developing our economy, and everyone else, mind your own business.
Now, how exactly are U.S. citizens complicit in this issue? Why wouldn't someone know whether they might be invested in its deforestation?
Again, it's that murkiness. You know, if you have a pension fund or are somehow invested in funds, you might want to look at who's managing that money and where that money is going. And again, there's a long supply chain of companies that are involved here. So you're not going to go from point A to point B and say, aha, I found it. I found the deforesters. We're talking about companies investing in companies, taking stakes in other companies. So it is very difficult to trace and track, and that's why we have largely been unaware.
Yeah, if you want to get some answers, trace the money, as they say. Adam, thank you very much. I'll be watching. And you can watch Adam in the newest episode of CBSN Original's new series, Reverb. It's called Complicit, the Amazon Fires. And it is streaming right now at cbsnews.com/complicit.